My dear child, pay attention carefully, for what I'm about to share isn't just a tale. It's a disclosure shrouded in quietude, a mirror intended to stir something deep within you. At this very moment, as these words reach your heart, there's a woman in a clinical hospital room. Machines hum softly around her, their melody cold and robotic. The faint, repetitive beep, beep, beep resonates like a distant heartbeat that doesn't quite belong to her anymore. She can't move, she can't speak. Her eyelids are shut as if the world outside no longer exists. Yet inside her something awakens, a mind still conscious, a spirit that persists in holding on. Medical professionals hover nearby, whispering in tones heavy with bewilderment. Their hands move swiftly, but their expressions reveal the truth they can't voice aloud. They don't grasp what's happening to her. To them, she's a riddle wrapped in deteriorating flesh. But to you, my child, she is something more. Because her narrative and yours are linked by unseen threads, skillfully crafted by a divine hand you cannot yet perceive. You might wonder, how could that be? I don't even recognize her. But yes, you do, not through recollection, but through significance. Her pain conveys a message intended for you. Her quietness echoes what she can't utter aloud. Your heart needs to listen, because what happened to her started way before she ever lay on that frigid hospital bed. It started with decisions, feelings, and shadows that murmured softly until they grew too loud to dismiss. Close your eyes for a bit, my child. Visualize her once overflowing with laughter, her dreams depicted in the vibrant hues of youth. She had friends who trusted her, a family who adored her, and a spirit that used to sway with optimism. However, life tends to challenge even the sturdiest hearts. For her, the trials arrived like unrelenting waves. A job lost, a bond fractured, pledges betrayed by time and fate. Each heartache eroded her happiness until her smile faded into a past recollection, and her faith turned brittle. She watched you from afar, my child, not with eyes of affection, but with eyes clouded by resentment. She saw how you carried light, how even amidst your tempests you found reasons to keep believing. That light aggravated her wounds, made her own pain more noticeable. And so instead of grasping for that same light, she reached for something else, something darker. It started as a whisper in her mind. Why does she have what I don't? Why does she glow when I'm weakening? Those murmurs grew louder, transforming her heart into something unrecognizable. It was on a night when the world was too quiet, when silence pressed against the walls like invisible fingers. The air hung heavy, filled with suppressed feelings. A solitary candle flickered in her small room, casting long shadows that seemed to breathe and shift. Her eyes blazed with urgent determination. In that instant, she wasn't thinking clearly. She was swallowed by the idea of reclaiming control, of regaining something she thought had been taken from her. But my dear one, power obtained through pain always comes at a cost. On that night, she sought out something taboo. Not prayer, not belief, but an old ritual spoken about in the shadows of despair. She had discovered an ancient book, one that seemed to appear spontaneously, its cover worn, its words strange yet familiar. The moment she touched it, a shiver ran through her body. She should have left, but she didn't. The allure of power was more enticing than her conscience. She started gathering pieces of you, things small but incredibly personal. A scarf you had once worn, still retaining your scent. A photograph where your eyes sparkled with optimism. And ultimately your name, written on parchment, glimmering faintly as though it resisted the fade. The ink itself. She didn't know your name was already guarded, sealed under a grace beyond her grasp. She thought these items would give her power, let her reclaim what she believed she'd lost. She carefully placed them before the candlelight, her shaking hands drawing symbols she couldn't fathom. The flame climbed higher as she murmured words from that ancient scripture, words not for mortal speech. They were old, heavy, and pulsating. Type 222 to claim it. The room seemed to grow dense, the walls appeared to encroach, and the shadows elongated abnormally. But she persisted. She thought she was controlling something that would obey her commands. She felt she could mold fate itself. The fate, child, belongs only to the divine. Then it occurred. The flame shuddered once, then vanished as if it had never been. A chill swept through the room, though every window remained closed. The mirror in front of her cracked with a sound like thunder, splitting her reflection into two halves, one of light, one of darkness. Even the air trembled, her heart thumped in fear, yet her feet were glued to the spot where she stood. The shadows that once danced now approached her, alive with something ancient and enraged. In that instant, she recognized her mistake. Wasn't in command. She wasn't the boss of this power. She was its target. The entity she'd summoned had turned its focus on her, not you. Because your spirit, my child, carries a sign, one placed by hands not of this world. No force of darkness can reach what heaven has marked. Her body shook as the air grew sharp, cutting through her like unseen blades. She tried to speak to undo the words, but her voice vanished into the quiet. The presence that filled the room did not speak. It didn't need to. No lie, the truth was written on her very soul. Do not meddle with my chosen, and do not harm my servants. That truth was a barrier she could not breach. The power she had released retreated toward her like a storm, enveloping her in unseen bonds. The shadows whirled wildly, but they couldn't reach what bore your name. Your photo fell to the floor, untouched, faintly glowing in the dark. The scarf landed beside it, weightless, pure, untarnished. When it ended, she stood trembling in darkness, gazing at the fragments of her own image. The mirror remained broken. The candle remained extinguished. The quiet that followed was not calm. It was a warning. The burden weighs heavy. She hadn't departed without leaving a trace. It left a residue within her, a symbol, an unseen burden that bided its time for its strength to swell. And that, my child, marked the start of her descent and the dawning of your understanding. My child, the night following the forbidden rite, the world outside her window remained identical. Calm streets, the faint buzz of life persisting. Yet within her chamber, everything had been altered forever. The atmosphere felt denser, almost vibrant. She couldn't label it, but she could sense it in the pauses between breaths, in the silence between heartbeats. Though the shadows no longer swayed, their essence adhered to her. Invisible yet smothering, she told herself it was over, that nothing had truly transpired. It was just fear, she murmured, attempting a quivering chuckle. Merely my mind. But deep within her she knew something had joined with her invitation, something she couldn't banish. That night as she lay in bed she could not rest. Each time she shut her eyes she glimpsed snapshots of the rite. The shattered mirror, the snuffed-out candle, the sight of your portrait crashing to the ground. Her body quivered, although the air was balmy. She rolled over, gripping her blanket tightly, trying to dispel the specter. Memories. Yet her heart pounded quicker and quicker, as if something unseen was stalking her. And indeed it was. The darkness she'd summoned hadn't vanished. It had merely transformed. It lingered silently within her, waiting. It wasn't a shadow you could spot. It was remorse, sorrow, dread, all stitched together into something alive. The seed had been sown, my child, and though she didn't recognize it yet, it was already flourishing. Type God is good if you love God. The following morning, the sun filtered through her drapes, golden and radiant, but it carried no cheer. She rose from bed slowly, her body feeling heavier than ordinary, as if gravity itself had doubled. Her world seemed dulled, colors faded, sounds muffled. The laughter of people outside no longer stirred happiness in her. It grated on her, echoing ridicule she couldn't escape. Days drifted by and that burden inside her grew stronger. It started small, a murmur at the periphery of her thoughts. You erred, then repeated. There's no going back now. She attempted to suppress them with chatter, work, but the murmurs always reappeared. They accompanied her in dreams, in wakefulness, enveloping her like fog. At first she tried to justify it. Stress, fatigue, perhaps guilt, but the reality was... No, the depth was profound. She had exposed a hidden emotional wound, and the gloom flourished on her denial. Her image started to disturb her. When she gazed into the glass, she saw something slightly off. Her eyes seemed empty, as if they harbored tailies she couldn't recall. She rotated the glasses, evaded them completely, but the image lingered in her dreams. Each night she dreamt of you, my child. You stood in the light, serene, untouchable. The same picture she once stole sprang to life in her thoughts. You grinned, but your gaze was not condemning. It was compassionate. That compassion pierced her more deeply than any curse could. It reminded her of what she had forsaken, of who she used to be. Before bitterness seized her soul, the murmurs transformed into visions. Shadows began to stir once more, not in her room, but in her mind. A vague figure in the corner of her vision, a chill on her back when no one was present. At first, she dismissed it as fantasy. But then came the cold touch, the gentle pressure of unseen fingers against her skin. The air grew sharp, dense, teeming with something she couldn't perceive or rationalize. My child, comprehend this. When the heart welcomes darkness, it cannot be partially sealed. Whatever comes always aims to linger. She struggled to resist it with earthly means, medicine, rest, distractions, but what she opposed wasn't from this realm. The pain she felt wasn't in her body. It was in her soul that her strength drained away. Food tasted bland. Laughter sounded strange. Sunlight hurt instead of comforted. The world remained the same. But to her, everything seemed shrouded. She wandered through a place that wasn't quite familiar anymore, caught between what was visible and invisible. Her companions observed her declining. They inquired, "Are you all right?" She smiled and replied, "Yes," because how could she express something she couldn't comprehend? How could she share about a darkness that called her name when she was by herself? About shadows that stirred when the lights went out? How could she confess that she had attempted to hex someone, you, and the hex turned against her instead? The remorse was unbearable, but she bore it alone. She stopped responding to calls, stopped visiting friends, stopped gazing at the world beyond her boundaries. Each passing day, she retreated deeper within herself. The realm she knew dwindled until it was nothing more than the four walls of her chamber. That accursed room where it all started. Then came the illness. It started as fatigue. Her body ached, her breath grew shallow, her chest constricted. She went to physicians. They ran tests, examined her blood, checked her heart. Each result came back normal. "You're okay," they said. "You're just tired." But she knew she wasn't okay. She could feel her strength ebbing away like sand slipping through hands. The nights became unbearable. Type 1111 if you love God, Jesus. The whispers she once heard faintly now spoke with clarity. They no longer accused. They demanded, "You summoned us. You are ours." Her body trembled, her pulse quickened, her voice failed. She tried to pray, but her prayers felt empty, bouncing off unseen barriers. Every God help me echoed hollow, as though it was swallowed by a vacuum. My child, her soul was crying, but she didn't know how to reach for compassion. Because guilt constructs walls stronger than steel, and fear bolts every door. She was drowning, not in water, but in her own silence. One night she woke gasping, her lungs burning, her body immobilized. The air grew chilly as her reflection faintly emerged from the dark mirror she had avoided. Her reflection moved first. Her lips parted, but she didn't speak. Her reflection did. It smiled faintly, not cruelly, but knowingly, as if it knew something she didn't. "Now you see," she whispered silently, but her words were unheard. The entity she'd summoned years before had grown firm, and she acknowledged her fatal mistake. Not for revenge, but to bind it, she'd hexed herself. She had doomed herself. When dawn broke, she struggled to stand upright. Her limbs quivered involuntarily. Collapsing on the chilly floor, the scarf and photo were left where they'd fallen years ago. Her kin found her there, breathless but alive, her gaze vacant. "This is how, my dear, she ended up in that hospital bed you foresaw. The machines now fill her lungs. Doctors call it a riddle, but we know the truth. What possesses her isn't sickness. It's the burden of a soul bound to what it summoned. Yet this tale isn't just hers, my dear. This is where your journey starts. For what ties her spirit to yours was not meant to destroy. It was meant to stir something divine within you. The question remains, will you respond? My dear, as that woman lay still in the clinical hospital room, life went on outside. But within her, change was brewing. Time stood still. Her body was motionless, lips unyielding, but her mind remained alert in a realm between life and perpetuity. She heard everything, the rhythmic drone of equipment, the soft sobs of relatives, the whispered prayers of doctors who couldn't comprehend. They spoke of unusual conditions, of undiagnosed mishaps, of symptoms that didn't add up. However, none of them perceived the truth. The struggle wasn't in her body, it was in her spirit. Within her, two powers fought. One was the darkness she had summoned years ago, now attached to her like a spectral presence that wouldn't relinquish its grip. The other was light, feeble yet persistent. A light that didn't originate from her, but from the one she had once intended harm upon. From you, my child. In her quiet cell, she started seeing dreams. Memories unfolded like shattered movie reels. The night of the ceremony, the flickering candle, the ancient tome, the cracked mirror. Yet within those memories were glimpses of you, your face, your name, your light. She didn't perceive rage in those visions, only tranquility, only serenity. And that tranquility shattered her more than any punishment ever could. She understood, lying there in silence, that your spirit had remained untouched. A spell she cast towards you shattered en route to your existence, as if it collided with an unseen barrier of light. You were safeguarded, my child, not by chance but by pledge. When she murmured your name that night, the heavens quaked. For your name is inscribed in the radiance of a divine contract, safeguarded by grace that cannot be pilfered or fractured. The power she invoked had recoiled from her not out of spite but out of equity. When it discovered it couldn't reach you, it targeted the one who conjured it. It saw her envy, her resentment, her defiance, and these became its entryway. Darkness always thrives on what mirrors it. Her jealousy provided it welcome. Type 777 if you believe in God, Jesus. Her suffering anchored it, and her heart became its lair. But you, my dear child, your light repelled it. When her curse invoked your name, the voice of heaven resonated louder. This one is mine. At precisely the same instant she uttered the concluding words of her incantation, your protector stirred. The divine presence encompassing you flickered, unseen yet potent. Every weapon formed against you splintered before it even neared. That's why, though you never witnessed the conflict, your soul felt the quake. Remember those nights when you couldn't rest for sleep due to no cause, when your heart pounded like sensing something invisible. You felt it then, not the assault but the defense. Because you, my child, are no typical one. You are selected. The adversary may mutter, threaten, scheme, but he can't triumph. Each force dispatched towards you bends backward. Every shade that looms against you ends up bowing before the light that envelops you. As that woman lay confined by the weight of her own selections, the divine started working gently, not in anger, but in pity. For even when we stumble, the hand of compassion still extends. The same light that protected you began to appear dimly in her darkness, providing her something she never foresaw: mercy. At first, she rebelled. In her inner mind, she heard the voice of the one who once shielded her too, the voice she had disregarded when she moved towards the shadows. Relinquish, it whispered, but she couldn't. Shame had built barriers around her heart. She thought mercy was unattainable, that compassion was too distant beyond her grasp. Yet, my child, mercy isn't acquired, it's granted. Days evolved into weeks, and her relatives prayed alongside her. Their tears touched heavens, and heavens acknowledged. Gradually, faintly, something within her started to alter. The whispers echoed softly. In the face of darkness, it seemed scared. Her spirit, though restrained by silence, started to rouse with memories of light, of warmth, of hope. And you, even though unaware, were part of that grace. Your name became her turning point. Every time doctors uttered it or her family spoke of you, a shiver ran through her spirit. It wasn't agony this time. It was cleansing. The curse that once bound her started to snap apart link by link. Child, that's the secret of divine protection. What harms you often becomes the path to someone else's salvation. Your barrier became her reflection. Your tranquility became her guide. And yet, you two were being molded through this invisible bond. You felt an inexplicable empathy, a sudden yearning to pray for those who wronged you, to pardon without justification, to let go without resolution. You thought it was mere kindness, but it was the Spirit flowing through you, training you divine understanding. The kind that transforms pain into purpose. Because, child, every time you forgive, heaven changes. Every time you surrender what sought to shatter you, you disarm the power darkness thought it had. That's why your heart glows after all the tempests, why serenity follows. You stay strong even when others crumble apart. It's not weakness, it's divine resilience, no textual inheritance. In the unseen world, a woman's spirit quivered. She saw now what she had never imagined, that the same God she defied was still close. Her soul cried for mercy, though her voice remained silent. And in that quiet cry, heaven responded. The turmoil inside her started to untangle, not immediately, but bit by bit, until all that was left was weariness and remorse. And though her body stayed motionless, her spirit had commenced its trek back toward the light. My child, recall this truth. When others intend to harm you, it does not strike. It rebounds, returning to the sender not because you wish them pain, but because darkness cannot endure light. That's why I advise you not to curse those who curse you. Pray for them. Your prayer can heal what condemnation cannot. The woman's agony was not meant to annihilate. It became her awakening. And your protection was not merely for your advantage. It became her proof that grace overpowers guilt. As you tread upon this earth, you will encounter many who, like her, conceal. They're hurt beneath envy or animosity. Thanks for watching this God message. May God Jesus will grant you abundance in every aspect of your life. Type 222 if you agree. My dear child, pay attention carefully. For what I'm about to share isn't just a tale. It's a disclosure shrouded in quietude, a mirror intended to